My name is Eleanor and I am 72 years old. For the better part of the last 2 decades, I lived quietly, almost invisibly, in a small town that had slowly become too familiar, too predictable. After my husband passed away 12 years ago, the walls of my home felt colder, the days longer, and the nights endlessly silent. My children had grown up and moved to distant cities, busy with their own lives, their own families. I was left with memories and a sense of emptiness that I tried to fill with routine. Each morning I would wake up early, make a cup of tea, and sit by the window to watch the sunrise. Sometimes I'd read, other times I'd tend to the small garden my husband had once loved. But mostly I was alone. Not lonely exactly, but very much aware of how life had shifted away from me, leaving me with a quiet residue of years gone by. One particular afternoon in late spring changed all that. I had been out walking near the town square, carrying a small bag of groceries back home. The streets were calm, the sun gentle on my skin, when I noticed a commotion outside the old community center. A group of volunteers was setting up tables and decorations for the annual neighborhood fair, a tradition I hadn't participated in for years. Curious, I paused and watched as a younger woman struggled to carry a large stack of boxes into the building. Without thinking, I approached her and offered my help. "Let me give you a hand with those," I said with a warm smile. She looked up, surprised but grateful. "Thank you so much. I wasn't sure I could manage all this by myself." Her name was Grace, and she had recently moved to our town to start fresh after a difficult chapter in her own life. We began talking as we carried the boxes inside, about the fair, the town, and how new beginnings often come wrapped in challenges. Grace had a lively spirit, but beneath it was a softness that reminded me of myself at her age. She spoke of dreams and plans, of wanting to bring the community closer, of restoring the warmth that once defined our town. Over the coming weeks, I found myself drawn to the preparations. I offered to help organize activities, teach crafting classes to children, and bake treats for the event. Grace and I worked side by side, laughing, planning, and dreaming. With each day, I felt the heavy fog of solitude lift just a little. I was not just busy, I was alive. One evening, after a long day of decorating the community hall, Grace invited me for tea. Sitting across from her in the cozy kitchen of her new home, I shared stories from my past, of my husband, my children, and the silent ache of losing the life I once knew. She listened with kindness and never once judged. Instead, she reminded me that life seasons are always turning, and that there is always room for new growth, no matter our age. When the fair finally arrived, I stood near the entrance, watching the neighborhood gather. Families, children, neighbors old and new, all brought together by the promise of connection. That day, as laughter echoed through the streets and music filled the air, I realized something profound. Life does not end with loss or age. It simply changes form. Grace and I became friends, unlikely perhaps, but deeply needed by both of us. Together we found purpose in community, hope in companionship, and joy in simple moments. I started volunteering regularly at the center, taking up new hobbies I hadn't imagined trying, and even attending a book club. Slowly, I rekindled the light in my life that I had thought was gone forever. The loneliness remained sometimes, as it always will, but it no longer defined me. Instead, I chose to fill my days with kindness, with friendship, and with the quiet knowledge that every moment holds the potential for a new beginning. If you find yourself feeling forgotten or stuck, remember Eleanor's story, that it is never too late to open the door to change, to connection, and to rediscovery. Because the best years might just be waiting around the corner.